have, so you can look at those if you want. Some people put their own septic systems in. You can, in Muskegon County, that's allowed. But I would warn you, just be careful and call us if you want to do such a thing. We have probably, I looked at our records, we have over 30,000 records in Muskegon County. We're in the process of getting that all digitized right now. So when folks call up, we don't have to run through the files and try to find it. Lots. Let's see, area surrounding White Lake has both municipal and individual sewage disposal and treatment systems. And we used to say sewage disposal systems. Now we like to say sewage treatment systems, because when we design septic systems these days, it's not for just disposal, it's for the treatment. And that's our main goal. And around the lake, we are very particular in how we do that. So the regulations are tougher the closer you are to water. So if you're within 400 feet of water, those regulations get tighter. So the lots surrounding White Lake can be challenging. So I listed some challenges. In the 50s and 60s and probably early 70s, a lot of homes were bought around our inland lakes, and they were small lots. And because of that, and they weren't lived in, they were a seasonal home, like a cabin. But that's changing. And so many people are buying these homes. They're increasing the size of the home, the footprint of the home. And when that happens, then the area for the septic system shrinks. And so those are some challenges. Plus you need a bigger septic system if you're going to have a bigger home. Year-round living versus seasonal, I talked about that. I think there's complications with, we have places that do Airbnb rentals, septic systems. How do you design a septic system for that? I know some folks don't like them, some folks like them, but they are definitely something that is a challenge for us. So if you're going to entertain to have that in your home, we would ask you to let us know, and then we can help you design your septic system that would be able to handle that. And I already talked about stricter regulations, so we'll skip on. Failing septic disposal systems, possible impacts near White Lake. I just put a few, and I think Rick and Matt's going to talk about it, so I won't spend much time on it. I'll jump down to untreated wastewater can cause cholera, hepatitis, typhoid. It can cause many problems. And do we have those problems? Not usually. If we do have complaints, so we also take all septic complaints. Any septic complaint comes to us, and then we will conduct an investigation. And sometimes we'll even call the state to help us and call in the dog to try to find the system that might be failing. Common septic disposal system failures. So why do they fail? Well, simply age and design. Again, if they were designed for a small home, or they were designed with a cesspool. I was just talking to a guy on the phone today, and believe it or not, his system, in his system, he still has a cesspool. So a cesspool, what we call a cesspool, is when in the olden days, they put blocks down, sometimes not even mortar, and then they didn't even have a bottom. So for the septic tank, it was not sealed, and that would be a cesspool. And so this is even in use today. I was just talking to a gentleman. So we definitely need to get that fixed. So we were glad he called us. So there are poor designs, especially probably in the 50s, the 60s, early 70s. Baffle failure. Does anybody know what's in your septic tank? So you got this big, this cement vault, and then you have this, what's called a baffle. So the fog floats on the top. It's the fats, the oils, and the greases. That's when you open up your tank, it's looking disgusting, but that's what you're seeing. You're seeing your fats, your oils, and your greases. You aren't seeing your solids. Your solids are on the bottom. And in the middle is the sewage water that we call effluent. So that's what needs to go out to your seepage bed. Not the solids. You don't want the solids going, and you don't want your fog going, your fats, oils, and greases. So a baffle separates that and gets that out to the field where it can be treated by the bacteria. So if you have a faulty baffle, it's not going to work correctly. And of course, it will, your field will fail quickly. So that's a baffle. Operations and maintenance, that's big, I think. So you're looking for your tanks. They're not emptied on a schedule. I would say people, we get this question all the time. When should we have our tank empty? And you know, it depends. If you're one person and you have a sizable septic system, you probably don't have to have it emptied every 5 to 10 years. You're just one person. But if you're one person and the kids visit and all the kids do their laundry at your house and they always come for the weekend, then it's much different. So on average, we say every 2 to 3 years. But it can be. If you got 2 tanks, do you have to have both tanks empty? That's another big question. So it's better to have 2 tanks than 1 tank. The second tank is just usually filled with the sewage water, the effluent. And so you really don't have to have that emptied as much. As long as you've had the first one emptied, the second one is just effluent. It's not going to be big. So there's a lot of things to consider. Another thing for failure is irrigation systems. We've had beautiful homes in 2 years. They're calling us, hey, Mike, what's going on? My system failed. It's only 2 years old. We go out there and there's irrigation. And it's a beautiful lawn, just beautiful. And there's a sprinkler like every 10 feet. And we ask them, well, how many times do you sprinkle? Oh, maybe twice a day. For how long? Oh, I don't know, 30 minutes. And so they are saturating the seepage beds. That seepage bed needs to be able to dry out, okay? And if you're not letting it dry out, it's going to fail, and it will fail quickly. So operation and maintenance of a septic system is extremely important. Proper ventilation, proper vegetation. We go with fruitland, there's beach grass. Is beach grass a good thing to have over your septic or your seepage bed? What do you think, guys? Terrible. Not good. So you don't want beach grass over your septic system because beach grass is very fibrous. The roots are very fibrous. They're going to go down. They're going to get into your laterals and into your gravel, and you're going to have root inundation, and you're going to have early failure. We'll keep going. Flushing items that should not be flushed, such as feminine products, coffee, paints, oils, medicines, solvents. We've gone to a couple homes where the house was under construction, and the painter and the drywaller and all that was cleaning everything out, and it ruined the system within 6 months. So you don't want to be doing that as well. So a lot of things to consider. Before you dump something down your sink, I would take a look at it. If you're in doubt, don't do it. Okay. Another thing is flooding, and I'll quickly go. This is Buzz's Lakeside Inn. Has everybody been there? This is the township in Fruitland, right? And in 2019, there was quite a bit of flooding out there. We responded to this. And they have their seepage bed is up the bluff. That's where the bed is. So they pump up. But that whole area had flooded. And so all that, anything that was going into the tanks wasn't getting, they couldn't pump it. They couldn't pump enough into the field. And so they had started pumping it up to White Lake when we had this complaint. So we went out and we had to have an educational conversation with the person, and we did. And it was stopped, but we tested the wells in the area. Of course, we stopped that part of it, and actually those units were closed down for quite a while. And it's not there anymore. I went by there the other day, and it's nice and flat, and I think that there's a new project going on.
3 new homes will be there.
Okay, so 3 new homes will be there, and which is fantastic. So I'm going to let Rick go, because we're not doing questions, right? All right. Oops. Rick, sir, I don't know if you want the podium.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Raditsky. I'm with the Water Resources Institute in Muskegon, and I've got a master's and PhD from the University of Michigan. My current title is Distinguished Research Fellow. Used to be a professor, but I retired, and then I came back. They wouldn't hire me back as a professor, so I have this fancy title. But anyway, still doing the same work. Did a lot of work on White Lake delisting contaminated sediments, benthic invertebrates, some of the toxic chemicals that were there. And then I've kind of switched my focus to doing DNA testing instead of hazardous chemicals. So I'm very involved with testing various water samples for DNA markers, and we're able to differentiate E. coli now. We don't differentiate different types of E. coli, but we differentiate the fecal bacteria. We can trace it back to a source, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Right now I'm also doing the SARS-CoV-2 testing in wastewater, so that's why I came back from retirement to get involved with that project. They needed 19 labs in the state of Michigan to test it for wastewater, and we were already a DNA testing lab, so we decided to work with RNA instead, and we're still testing wastewater. We also test the A station, which includes Whitehall and Montague, so I am testing some of the sewage coming down from this area. And then I also work with PFAS. I was part of a citizens group that helped expose Wolverines pollution up in Rockford. They contaminated 1,000 residential wells. Pretty serious situation. So anyway, that's what I do. And just want to talk a little bit about fecal pollution. Mike was talking about septic tanks, and that's certainly one source of fecal pollution. But in terms of the number one cause of impairments to streams and rivers, it is fecal pollution. That sounds like we're a third world country, but we have